The price of fire. The room was silent, almost oppressive in its stillness. A silence not of peace, but of consequence. Jeff Bezos sat alone at his desk, the dim glow of a single lamp stretching shadows across walls that once echoed with ambition. The air smelled faintly of old paper and stale coffee, the scent of 1,000 nights spent gambling with destiny. His posture was rigid, as if gravity itself had doubled in weight. His eyes, sharp once, now carried a quiet heaviness, the reflection of a man who had stared too long into the abyss of his own creation. This was not the picture of triumph the world adored, not the titan of industry, not the architect of convenience, not the bald king of e-commerce, whose empire stretched across continents. This was a man at the crossroads of memory, replaying the decision that had set everything in motion and exacted a toll too immense to ignore. He whispered to himself, almost like a confession. It was just one choice, one leap, and it consumed everything. The spark before the fire, years earlier, before the silence and the shadows. Jeff had stood at another desk, not of mahogany, but of cheap wood, the kind that creaks under restless elbows. He was 30 years old, a promising young vice president at a hedge fund in New York. His colleagues admired him, his bosses respected him, and his career path was carved in marble. Safety, prestige, a future anyone would envy. But safety was poison to him. One night, under the sterile glow of fluorescent lights, he stumbled upon a statistic. Internet usage had been growing at 2,300% per year. It was nothing more than a number on a page, but to him, it pulsed like a heartbeat, alive with danger and opportunity. He knew what it meant. He could see it, the invisible future, flickering like a mirage on the horizon. A marketplace without walls, a store without borders. Books first, then everything. Yet knowing was not the same as acting. He was shackled by a cruel question. Would he abandon certainty for chaos? To resign from his golden cage meant betrayal, not just of his employers, but of his parents' faith, his wife's stability, and his own carefully built reputation. The decision pressed down on him like a hand around his throat. And yet, ambition is louder than reason. One morning, walking with his wife Mackenzie along Central Park, he voiced the madness within him. What if I don't do it? He asked, what if I look back, decades from now, and know I ignored the biggest wave of our lifetime? She didn't flinch. She didn't laugh. She simply said, then you should try. That single moment cracked the world in half. The fall into uncertainty he resigned. Just like that. A man walking away from security into the storm. His colleagues stared at him in disbelief, like a soldier deserting before battle. Some laughed. Others muttered he had lost his mind. He packed his life into a car and drove west, tracing the long American highways until he reached Seattle. In the passenger seat, a laptop. In the back, the skeleton of a dream that barely had a name, Cadabra, but even the gods mock ambition. A lawyer misheard the word as cadaver, a cruel omen for what could have been his grave mistake. So he changed it. One word, simple and eternal. Amazon, a river without end. In the garage of a rented house, he and a handful of believers began their ritual. Computers hummed, books stacked to the ceiling, orders trickled in like raindrops before a storm. Days bled into nights. Coffee replaced sleep. Doubt chewed at their nerves. Investors scoffed. Analysts sneered. An online bookstore? How quaint. His pitch was met with smirks, his forecasts with ridicule. But Bezos's eyes carried fire, the kind that unsettled men. He told them what they refused to believe. This will be everything. Not just books. Everything. And still, the abyss waited. The choice that burned bridges. The critical decision came when Amazon was nothing more than a fragile boat in a violent sea. Investors demanded profits. Competitors circled like sharks. He had to decide, Would Amazon be just a bookstore or something far more dangerous? He could keep it small, keep it safe, make a living, not a legacy. Or he could risk annihilation and expand, pouring every cent back into growth, gambling with money he didn't have, building warehouses no one thought necessary, chasing scale that seemed insane. It was not a choice of strategy. It was a choice of blood. Late one night, he scribbled a letter to his shareholders. His words were calm, but behind them lay a declaration of war. We will make bold rather than timid investment decisions. We will not sacrifice long-term value for short-term profits. We will be misunderstood for long periods of time. That letter was a blade across the throat of conventional wisdom. Wall Street punished him. The stock fell. The press mocked him. But he did not waver. The decision had been made. He would burn the ships. There would be no retreat. The taste of blood and triumph. The years that followed were a crucible. Every quarter felt like a trial, every headline a dagger. Amazon bled cash, hemorrhaging millions while analysts screamed doom. It will collapse, they wrote. It's just another .com destined for ruin. And yet, each loss was a seed. Warehouses grew. Servers multiplied. The selection expanded. Customers returned. Loyalty was forged not in marketing, but in obsession Bezos' obsession. He demanded everything from his people. Ruthless efficiency, relentless pace, sleep was weakness. Hesitation was betrayal. Employees whispered of meetings that broke spirits, of a boss whose smile was rarer than rain in the desert. Yet they followed him because they saw the storm he was building. Then, like a blade piercing the dark, the .com bubble burst. Giants crumbled. Fortunes evaporated. But Amazon, bloodied and bruised, still stood. His mad decision to sacrifice profit for growth, to embrace pain for scale, had saved them. He had bet everything on survival, and he had won. But the victory was not free. The invisible price with each triumph came a wound. His marriage strained under the weight of endless work. His employees burned out, some leaving in silence, others in fury. Rivals accused him of predation, of building not a business, but a machine that crushed everything in its path. He knew. He always knew. Every empire demands sacrifice. Yet in quiet moments, when the applause of the world faded, he felt the void gnawing at him. Was he building the future, or was he feeding a beast that would never stop consuming? He remembered the young man at the hedge fund, the one who could have chosen comfort. That man was gone, buried under warehouses and algorithms. In his place stood a figure larger than life, but lonelier than ever. And in that loneliness, a realization crept in like poison. The decision he had made to risk everything was not a single moment. It was a chain, binding him forever to the path of endless expansion. He could not stop. Not now. Not ever. Reflection in the dark back, in the silence of his office. Bezos leaned back, the weight of decades pressing into his chest. He had built the empire. He had won, but the victory tasted of ash. The choice that had given him everything had also stripped him bare. Friends lost, family strained, an image that could never again be ordinary. And he knew deep in the marrow of his bones that if he were offered the choice again, he would make it. Not because it was right, not because it was wise, but because the fire inside him was stronger than the comfort of peace. The world saw Amazon. He saw the cost. The silence deepened, and in that silence, one truth remained. Every empire begins with a decision, and every decision demands a sacrifice. The ashes of victory, the silence never truly leaves him. Even in the midst of applause, even in the roar of rockets rising toward the heavens, the silence lingers, a phantom reminder of the choice that chained him to an endless pursuit. Jeff Bezos built Amazon not as a company, but as a mirror of his own hunger, infinite, restless, insatiable. Yet empires do not stop expanding. They consume, they devour, they demand new worlds to conquer. And when the world of commerce lay subdued, his eyes turned upward to the sky, to the stars. But ambition in the heavens came at the price of storms on earth. Blue dreams, black shadows, blue origin. A name born of water, of beginnings, of hope. He said it was about humanity's destiny, about preserving Earth by reaching beyond it. He spoke of colonies floating among the stars, of generations living where gravity would not hold them down. To the world, it was vision. To him, it was necessity. He needed a new frontier, because the one he had already conquered no longer fed the fire. But building rockets was not like selling books. Each launch was money burned in fire, each failure a humiliation written in smoke against the sky. He poured billions into the dream, dollars that could have been comfort, but comfort was death to him. And yet the shadow of SpaceX loomed above, Elon Musk turning failures into victories with reckless audacity. Bezos, the richest man alive, found himself chasing, competing, always second in a race he thought should have been his. The decision to chase the stars brought him both ridicule and awe. Some said he was a visionary. Others called him a fool. And late at night, as he stared at launch pads drenched in silence, he asked himself, was this still about destiny? Or was it just about proving he could not be outdone? The tyranny of growth back on Earth, Amazon grew monstrous. Warehouses spread like veins across nations, their size dwarfing towns, their hum echoing day and night. Millions depended on it, customers, employees, shareholders, all caught in the machine he had built. The machine had no mercy. Reports surfaced, workers timed to the second, bodies breaking under the relentless pace, dreams of unions crushed beneath the weight of corporate might. The public saw next-day delivery. He saw the cost, but he never stopped it, because to stop it would mean slowing the beast, and slowing the beast meant death. Growth was not a strategy anymore. It was survival. In interviews, he smiled. In private, the question never left his mind. Had his one great decision condemned countless lives to a treadmill of exhaustion, just to keep his empire alive? The crown of the world, the numbers grew until they became abstract. Hundreds of billions, trillions. He was crowned the richest man on earth, the monarch of markets, the name on everyone's lips. But wealth was never the goal. Wealth was merely the shadow cast by ambition. Yet with the crown came poison. Politicians sharpened their knives. Regulators circled. Critics painted him as a symbol of greed, of inequality, of power stretched too far. And behind the curtain, his marriage crumbled. Years of distance, of obsession, of nights married to the company instead of the woman beside him, ended in silence and signatures on paper. The divorce was not just personal. It was the largest financial split in history. Proof that empires devour not only rivals, but families too. He had gained the world. But the world demanded blood. The echo of solitude power isolates. The higher you climb, the thinner the air, the fewer the companions. Bezos learned this truth slowly, and then all at once. Advisors spoke carefully, measuring every word. Friends blurred into allies. Allies blurred into opportunists. Trust became currency rarer than gold. At night, he walked through his mansion's echoing halls, rooms vast enough to swallow voices, windows reflecting not warmth, but emptiness. And in those echoes, he saw the boy he once was, the boy who dreamed of the stars, who loved stories, who laughed without the weight of billions pressing down. That boy was gone. In his place stood the architect of a colossus, a man revered and reviled, too large to be ordinary, too consumed to be free. And the silence whispered, was it worth it? The moment of reckoning, the decision that defined his life, the choice to abandon safety for chaos, to burn profits for growth, to chase the infinite, had given him everything. Yet it had also enslaved him. When he stepped down as CEO of Amazon, the world gasped. Some said he was tired. Some said he wanted to focus on Blue Origin. But deep within, the truth was more fragile, more haunting. He stepped down because he saw the cage he had built, and for a fleeting moment, he wanted to breathe outside it. But cages made of ambition cannot be abandoned. They follow, invisible chains clinking in every step. Even without the CEO title, he remained bound by influence, by wealth, by legacy. The machine he created would never stop. It would outlive him, devour the next generation, reshape the world long after his body had turned to dust. That was his victory. That was his curse. Reflection in the void. Now, in the silence of the present, he reflects. He remembers the long drive to Seattle, the fragile dream in the passenger seat. He remembers the shareholder letter, the vow to sacrifice the present for the future. He remembers the jeers, the failures, the moments when collapse felt certain, and the taste of survival when it didn't. He also remembers the faces of those who left, the warmth that slipped through his fingers, the family fractured by the same empire that made him immortal. Every decision has a price. His price was solitude. His price was humanity. Would he choose differently, if given the chance? The silence answers for him. No, because men like him are not built for peace. They are built for fire. They are built to chase the infinite, even if it burns them alive. And so he sits, a man both triumphant and broken, both king and captive. The richest man in the world, staring at the only wealth he cannot buy, the years he traded for power. The linger of ash outside, the world moves. Packages are delivered. Servers hum. Rockets prepare for launch. His empire lives, breathes, expands an organism born of one decision in a fluorescent-lit office decades ago. Inside, the silence remains. Not peace. Not regret. Just the eternal echo of a truth that cannot be escaped. Greatness demands sacrifice. And sacrifice leaves scars that never fade.